I hate making changes to my indie battle shonen game Ultra Bouters because it's so damn tedious. Here, let me show you. So the way my game works is I have actions, right? Take Brawl Style and Hammer Fist, for example. Now, between every two actions is a transition that I have to make an animation for to be able to make dynamic shonen battle replays. Following me so far? Now, I just finished this action transition from Brawl to Hammer Fist in Blender. That's step 1. And now I need to add it into the game. Well, step 2. I need to export this animation and I wait for it to finish, which takes more and more time the more animations that I add to this Blender file. Boom. Step 3, I create a new dynamic animation scriptable object. Step 4, I have to search for the animation in the FBX to add to the scriptable object. Then this animation is ready to use in game. However, we aren't done yet. Because if the action modifies the character in any way, meaning activates a hitbox, modifies their position, rotation, etc., then I need to add those instructions to the animation, which requires step 5, me going back into Blender, timing out the right keyframe that I want those instructions to take place on, and then step 6, going back into Unity on the scriptable object, adding the keyframe to those instructions, along with their name and type for the simulation to be able to look up later. And that goes for every instruction. Some transitions have up to 5 instructions, but that's besides the point. I'm now officially done with 1 out of maybe 100 different action transitions. But wait! There's more! Say that I modify the number of connections to any action. Well, that will dynamically change how many frames all connected actions will cost. And that includes the action with the instructions that I just added. So essentially I have to go one by one modifying each and every connection. Basically repeating step 2 to 6 again and again and again. It just makes you want to end it all every time, man. And that is why some of your favorite games would not exist without custom tools. Especially if it's trying to use an engine in a way that it wasn't designed for. And because of that, if you're making a game or planning to make a game, please make room for it. And be sure to support your game tools. Otherwise, prepare to give up on your game at some point due to being overwhelmed. These game engines are usually general purpose that fit very popular game dev use cases, and very likely they need to be extended with your own tools. Anywho, of course, this is where I transition into building a tool to solve this issue. I mean, I gotta give the devlog some value after all, right? I am so done with this, and it's time to stop. So here's how I'm going to automate the task. First up is the scriptable objects. Generating scriptable objects from a script is actually quite simple, but surprisingly, reading animation data from an FBX is actually very tricky, and sadly, it can't be done at runtime for some reason. So I won't be able to generate the scriptable objects on a need-be basis. But I added this Unity editor button that I can press and it will generate a scriptable object for me. Great, but now I need to fill that scriptable object with the correct data. And with this very convoluted function, I can get access to all animation clips from an FBX to populate the scriptable objects. Very smooth. But what about the other data like instructions? This took a little research, but I implemented a Blender script that creates a JSON file with all animations. Now I just need to figure out how do I get the instructions on this file. And man, pop-up bless Blender, because they have a very handy feature called pose markers, in which you can put markers on individual animation clips and they can be read from a Python Blender script. So I populated all actions with their instructions and the correct timing, along with this encoding that includes their instruction names and types. This step took a little while, but that's besides the point, because the final thing I had to do was to modify the editor button to also read the instructions JSON so that I could populate the scriptable objects. And voila, my tool hath been completed. And now I am loving development again, but more importantly, loving life again. Because all I have to do now is just step 1, make the action transition animation in Blender. Step 2, place instruction markers on the animation. Step 3, run the Blender script to make the instructions JSON. Step 4, export the FBX. And then step 5, just press this editor button and it will generate and or update all action transitions. And now I no longer have to call that one hotline. Sure, it's only one step shorter, but the difference is I can now do step 1 and 2 in batches, when previously I had to do all 6 steps for every single animation transition. You get the point. Custom tools fucking rock. I'll see you on the next devlog.